Hello and welcome to a Space Engineers video. Today we were going to be building a large heavily armed cargo ship. We're in the Easy Start Space Base, but if you load into Space Engineers it will look different because I deleted the vessels that were here to improve frame rate. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is start getting the base set up and mirror mode all corrected in. So I'm going to go with a two-sloped design to get a more gentle slope. Let's see, rotors. The rotors help to move. I'm making some wings to help, like, for the aesthetic purposes. But otherwise, they really don't serve any function. You can't strap engines to them. You have to do them on both sides because of how mirror mode works. They're just mainly for looking cool. Then I'm going to start building the engine section, or the engineering part. We're going to do the nice gentle curve into it. So let's start up with the cockpit, where the flight person, the pilot, would be sitting. Now I couldn't find the right block to put here. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but I figured it out. I think the second layer would make a nice roof to make out of glass. Though later on you'll see I replaced the front nose with a piece of glass too, so you can see out the front. See, just finding the right glass was a little tricky. Still looking for the right piece of glass. Oh, there we go. So now I'm gonna start building up the walls a bit more. I was trying to see if I could do like a more steep slope so I have some more interior space. But otherwise, it didn't really work. It looked weird. But eventually I knew I had to do it based on how I designed the engines. So yeah, like right there, it looks really weird. I got it. I couldn't. I tried my best. So now I'm starting the main engine section. Initially, I wanted to put two engines here, but there just wasn't enough space. I'd have to make the entire ship wider, which would cause a lot of reconstruction. So I decided to go with one, and it's good enough. This little contraption you see me make here was I needed to redesign the piping to get the engine fuel, and I didn't want it to fall off. Now we're going to start the engineering section, just redesigning the back a bit more. Now, I didn't want to be too big, so I made the engineering section not able to walk in it, and also just sticking them in the floor. Now I'm going to start building the cargo section, which I was able to fit 4, 2 on each side. They're all hooked up. Now it's important to note that this ship is not survival ready. The what's it called? The rockets aren't hooked up to anything. So you have 4 side thrusters, which on each side should help us strafe a little bit. There, I accidentally deactivated my jetpack and I just fell. So those reactors aren't hooked up to the main loop, so they're not survival ready either. So I couldn't put the thrusters there. I'd like to have more thrusters. I tried to get them to line up on the bottom, but it just didn't work out like the way I wanted it to. Here I'm just saving the game and putting in the doors to get into the cockpit. Now I wanted to be able to walk around, so I put some gravity in. And now the reason I deleted the wings is I realized I'd either have to pipe tubing all the way up to the front to get the hydrogen engines in the front, or I'd have to delete the wings. Now since the wings weren't really serving any purpose, I went with destroying the wings. Now these things you see over the engines, those are shield generators. They're a mod. They're the only mod on this, besides a speed mod, which some of you might have noticed. Now I'm just starting to build the roof for the top. But you might notice the bottom, it's pretty flat. We'll get to that later. It's not as important right now. It doesn't have as much function as the top does. Now this was the awkward part. It really didn't come out good. And so I decided to put a rocket there. Yeah, it looks okay. Still not the best. Just doing a weapons test to make sure the rockets did not hit the side of the hull. Just gonna finish in putting the top, the last pane of glass and everything to make it sealed. This ship is airtight. Gonna start working on the bottom now. It's pretty much the same as the top, except a more gentle slope on the sides, and it's not, there's no glass or cockpit down there. There's nothing you can walk around in. I was gonna repeat the same thing on the top, but I decided against it because it makes it slightly nicer. The way I did it now, it's a more gentle curve. The only downside is I could not put a rocket there. Just putting some gyroscopes to help me turn. And now I'm going to start building up the body. We're coming towards the end of the build here, and I was deciding, at this point I started deciding what color I wanted it to be. I wanted it to look nice, but I also wanted it to be easy camouflage. So this thing has all ships you can turn off their antennas, so I said, well, I could just paint it black and be very hard to see. It has decent rockets, lots of shields, would be hard to damage. So I went with black. But now I am building in the oxygen system. Those are oxygen farms. They'll help me create oxygen. So just testing the turning there. So I actually found there was a problem with the oxygen system, and I forgot to put some oxygen generators. The oxygen farms are useless without oxygen generators. So I did putting a rocket in the front, just to have something on the bottom. And I tried putting missile turrets. They just stick out and look really weird, and just it wouldn't sit flush, and they actually ended up destroying the station over there. So I had to create a faction so my weapons wouldn't tear up the station. But it ended up looking ugly, so I decided against it. So I thought, well, maybe I haven't actually tested it yet, but maybe the ship will actually be able to land on a planet. It has a lot of thrusters on the bottom, so it's possible. So I stuck some landing there just in case. It's also small enough that you could probably build a launch pad. Now then, I realized here at this point that I forgot the most important part of this, and that was a jump drive, to be able to get in and get out really quickly. Just making, the jump drive look nice, because it doesn't really sit flush with the hull because of all the reactors and stuff inside. At this point, I am starting to paint the ship and go for a test. I'm going to put a piece of glass there so you can actually see out the front when you're in the cockpit, even though it's really not necessary. That type of cockpit, you can't see out the front. I just thought it was really useful if you want to just look. So I put the oxygen vent, and I realized it was not pressurizing the ship. So I had to go through, put in an oxygen generator to actually allow. There's 4 down here, and I'm pretty sure 6 oxygen farms. No oxygen tanks, so those generators get damaged, you're pretty much screwed. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back. As you can see, this is a very, very functional cargo ship with 3 rocket launchers. It is decent speed. It has 1 large thruster in the back. So if you get into any fights with it, I'd suggest protecting that, as it is the only forward thrust on this ship. Luckily, to protect it though, we have obviously our rockets, and then inside, as you may have saw on the video, those things that are over the thrusters, those are shield generators. Now I'll just explain what's on the rest of the hotbar. So you press 1, it'll select your rockets, and if you press the mouse button, it'll fire rockets. If you press 2, it will turn on autopilot. If you press 3, you can get your engine, your rear engine, to manually fire for you without having to hold W. 7 locks and unlocks your landing gear. 8 turns on and off the actual rockets. And 9 is your shields. We'll take a quick tour. As you can probably see, it is pressurized and we do have gravity. That is our oxygen generator. Not much interior. I mean, we could strap on a few lights. Now go turn that on. Goes up. I'll say let's call these lights. Okay. Let's see. Maybe we can turn these lights up a bit, make it a little bit brighter so you can see better. There we go. Oh, much better. Let's see, what other necessary things would be helpful? Where is it? Med bay. Of course, we got our med bay now. And the only other thing I can think of that we will put in here is a antenna. Let's delete some of these little lights with the antenna. Oops, I just depressurized the ship. So as you can see, there is not much of an interior, but it's not really the interior that counts for the ship. It's its speed and its maneuverability. As you can see, we can turn pretty quickly. And finally, I probably should have put this on the hotbar. We have our jump drive. Is it charged? It is charged. So just to use your jump drive, just go into jump drive menu. You can say, let's just use 50 kilometers, and we'll say jump. I'll show you the effect. It's actually really cool. Now we are 50 kilometers further than we were where we were. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.